the men. Down in Australia, there's been an extraordinary story where a school made all the boys in that school stand up and basically apologise to all the girls in that school in an assembly for what they called rapes committed by their gender, which seems to me to be an extraordinary development. Let's talk to Danielle Shepherd, who's a parent at Brower College in Warrnambool, Australia. Tell us what happened.
So my son told me that he was asked to stand up after the entire assembly watched a video on consent, sexual consent and consent within schools. He, not just himself, but all of the boys were asked to stand up in solidarity to apologise on behalf of their gender for anything that had happened to the female gender, which is not right. No. Honestly.
No, it really isn't right. And I mean, were they given any warning that this was going to be something they were going to be asked to do?
No. So the students had no idea. As far as I've heard, the teachers had no idea. It was all just thrown together at the last second and everyone was put on the spot.
Okay, so this thing about, like, getting boys to apologise to the girls in a school in Australia, this was, for apparently sexual assaults committed by their gender to the female gender. Okay, they were made to stand up and apologise to all the girls, okay? Well, this is silly on so many levels, okay? Well, first of all, obviously, it's stupid to get people to apologise for stuff that they themselves have not done, okay? But especially as well when this is young boys, like, I think they're sort of like young teenagers. Okay, it's like, it'd be bad enough blaming all men, like, for, like, rape and sexual assault and that, okay? But, like, putting it onto boys, when teenagers have all sorts of insecurities, and they're still children, really. I mean, they're older children, but they're still children. Okay, to put it onto them is really, like, quite disgusting. But also, like, I mean, it is totally pointless, and, like, it benefits nobody, right? Because it's like, well, the boys are apologising for something that they have presumably, like, never done, okay? But also, the majority of the girls in that school probably have never been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed. Okay, so we've got boys apologising for something that they didn't do, and they're apologising to the girls for something that most of them are not even a victim of. Okay, which makes no sense at all. But then even, like, if any of the girls at the school, if they had been victims of sexual assault or sexual harassment or anything like that, it's still not going to be helpful to them to have boys who haven't done anything to them to, like, apologise because of something that somebody else did to them, okay? It's like they're telling the boys to take accountability for stuff that other men and boys have done before, okay? Because you get some evil people in this world of both genders, obviously, okay? But those people are a minority. But you can't expect people that have never done anything wrong to take accountability for stuff that other people have done, okay? I think people, you only ever need to apologise or feel guilty, like, for stuff that you have done wrong in your life, not for something that somebody else has done wrong, okay? Because, like, I mean, there's a lot of, like, evil stuff that does happen in the world, okay? It's not the fault of everybody, alright? But also, like, abuse on children, I mean, that happens to both boys and girls, okay? Now, while sexual abuse, it might be more likely to happen to girls, okay? But, like, even that isn't just girls. I mean, it might be more likely to happen to girls, but there are boys that get sexually assaulted as well, and there are women that have sexually assaulted, well, men and boys before, okay? And, I mean, there have actually, like, been boys that have been sexually abused by their mum before, okay? But also, I mean, there are other types of abuse as well, obviously, like physical abuse or mental abuse. And, you know, while it's quite sad to think about, it's like some of the children at that school, they might have, like, they might be in an abusive home, we don't know. But that could be the boys or the girls. But say, like, if hypothetically, if a boy was being abused by his mum, like, to then make him stand up in school and apologise to the female gender for, like, all the wrongs that men and boys have apparently done to women, I mean, that would be, like, a doubly insult for that boy, if you know, that were the case. Okay. Now, it sounds like it wasn't the school teachers that, like, wanted this to happen, because apparently the teachers didn't know that the boys were going to be made to stand up and apologise, and the school has actually apologised to the parents, so it sounds like it wasn't actually the school's fault, okay? So I don't exactly know whose fault it was, like, whoever came in to, like, teach them all about consent, I suppose. So, like, yeah, definitely that shouldn't be allowed to happen in schools. But also, it's like, they're sort of starting to make out now, like, that there's, like, an epidemic of sexual assault in schools, which, I don't think I fully believe, because, like, I mean, when I was at school, it was safe, okay? It was, you know, it wasn't something that, like, girls were frightened of, okay? I mean, I know that there will be some times when incidents do happen, okay? But it wasn't something that the girls were living in fear of, okay? Yeah, some feminists are sort of, like, making out that, like, oh, yeah, being raped and sexually assaulted, you know, that's something that, so many girls and women are just putting up with nowadays.
And also, do you know how traumatising it would be? Imagine you're a 13-year-old girl and you've just been raped at in the toilets of your school, and you go and you tell a teacher, and nothing is done by the school, and then you're expected to go back into the classroom and sit next to that pupil. Now,
see, no, she makes it sound as if it's, like, a normal thing that happens to girls at school. Like, do you remember, women, when you were at school, how, like, sometimes, like, you'd get raped in the bathroom, and then you'd have to come back and sit in the same classroom with the boy who just raped you? Do you remember when that used to happen all the time, women, when you were at school? It's like, no, it doesn't happen, does it? Like, I think this was because of, like, there was one incident in one school somewhere where a girl was raped in the bathroom, okay, which, yeah, that's terrible, okay? That's a disgusting thing that happened, okay? But this is, like, a rare incident, you know? And I know in an ideal world, no bad things would happen, obviously. There'd be no rapes, no murders, no child molesters, no child abusers. There'd be nothing bad would ever happen in an ideal world. But we don't live in an ideal world. Occasionally bad things happen, but you've got to keep a sense of proportion, like... rapes and sexual abuse at school is not something that is the norm, okay? But some of these feminists, they want to take anything like that and try to make out that it's the norm, you know, for girls and women, when it's just not. And they know that it's not, okay? So, yeah, okay. So that is a very bad thing, yes. But that's all I've got to say about that for now. Thank you for listening.
And they were being asked to apologise for rapes committed by their gender. Was that just in general, or was it at the school, or was it in your town? I mean, what were they apologising for?
And that's the great question, isn't it? The students were unsure what they were apologising for. It was apparently for sexual abuse or putting not following with consent to students in the school, but it should not be put on to a bunch of 12 to 18-year-old boys that have never done anything like that.
Well, we were talking about this earlier on with Julie Hartley-Brewer on Breakfast, and how, you know, boys are now being kind of put upon by lots of other people in society, as if everything is their fault. I mean, I've got 2 teenage sons myself, and I find it quite remarkable that that they're being looked at as if they're sort of sexual predators at such a young
and
age.
that's what my son's concern is. That he turned around and said to me, and now I'm concerned that people are looking at me as if I'm a predator or going to be a predator as I grow. And now he's worried that people are looking at him like that, and he's not. A lot of the other students, it's all been on the news down here. Most of the male students that have been on the TV, on the news, have vocalised the same concern.
Yeah. And what's the kind of general attitude in Australia to all of this? Because, you know, we're living in this kind of woke world now where, you know, we have to be very careful not to offend anyone, where we all have to somehow take account of people that we don't know taking offence at something we say before we've even said it. It's almost like you're apologising all the time for something that you don't even know has happened yet.
Yes, that's true. That's the world today, I think. But down here where we are angry, everyone a lot of people in Australia are angry. A lot of people in Warrnambool, the parents at the school are ropeable. Even the parents of the daughters and the females at the school were ropeable. This day and age, there's not 2 genders. There are many genders, and you've singled out one gender to stand up and apologise to all of them, whether they were female. You asked one gender to stand. Now, from my understanding, if there were any students in the school that were transgender, how were they feeling? How did they feel to be asked to pick a side, whether they wanted to stand with the boys and apologise or sit with the girls and be apologised to? It's not a great thing to have to be put through.
No. And have you, as parents, gone to the school to ask them what the hell they thought they were doing?
I have not had a chance to do that. I have been that inundated since the day I found out. I put a post on Facebook on Brower's page, basically stating that I was not impressed that my son was asked to apologise for something he had never done. And since then, I've been inundated with messages for interviews and stuff like that. The school has sent out a mass message apologising in general for what they have done. They have also given the whole school extra time for lunch, I believe, one day to try and apologise. But, what's an extra 15 minutes when you may have psychologically damaged many students?
Well, it is an extraordinary story. Danielle, thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us. Danielle Shepherd, their parent at Brower College in Warrnambool, Australia, where basically the school have now apologised for making everybody else apologise. Brilliant, isn't it? Absolutely bonkers mad, crazy world that we now live in. But we want to hear from you because there's a similar, I think, a similar kind of feeling abroad here in the UK because there's this massive surge in claims of sexual abuse. Now, I have no idea whether there's an awful lot of sexual abuse going on in school. My sense is that there's not as much as some people are suggesting that there is. But you may have a different view. If you're a parent, I'd love to hear from you.